In ancient Scandinavia, the story of the Blood Eagle reveals the brutal nature of the Viking Age. This terrifying punishment, rooted in Norse mythology and the warrior code, was reserved for the most hated enemies. The ritual involved cutting the victim's back to resemble eagle wings, rubbing salt into the wounds, and pulling out the lungs as an offering to Odin, the king of the gods. More than just an act of cruelty, the Blood Eagle sent a strong message of revenge and signaled that honor had been restored. In a world where honor was as important as life itself, this gruesome display served as the ultimate punishment for betrayal and murder. The Blood Eagle held great significance not only as a ritualistic sacrifice and offering to the gods, but also as a method of inflicting pain and suffering on a high-ranking criminal or enemy. According to two sagas, the victims were forced into a prone position while large crowds gathered to witness the gruesome event. For the Vikings, who held deep reverence for their gods, the Blood Eagle was seen as a sacrifice to them, carried out by their enemies. The executioner, often a high-ranking member of the settlement, would begin by making a large incision on the victim's back with an axe. They would then sever the ribs from the spine and pull them out to the sides to form wings. Finally, the executioner would pull out the victim's lungs and drape them over the extended ribs. By this point, the victim would have likely died. The goal was to create a pair of wings, allowing the victim to be suspended and displayed in the macabre spectacle. There has been much debate about whether this practice actually occurred or if it is merely a product of Viking sagas and propaganda. The Blood Eagle is mentioned in Norse literature, and there are references to it in historical accounts. Two specific victims are cited as having undergone this execution: Halfdan Haraldsson, a prince, and King Ælla of Northumbria. Both executions were allegedly carried out as acts of vengeance for the killing of a father. We will explore accounts from the Gesta Danorum, the saga of Ragnar's sons, and the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle to understand the life and fate of King Ælla of Northumbria. First, let's begin with King Ælla's ancestry and early life. His origins are somewhat obscure, but existing sources provide some insight. According to the Gesta Danorum, Ælla was the son of King Hæme, a British ruler. In contrast, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle describes Ælla as an usurper who overthrew King Osberth without any legitimate claim to the throne, portraying him as an ambitious tyrant. Before Osberth, Æthelred II ruled Northumbria, and evidence supports that Osberth succeeded him. So why does the Gesta Danorum suggest that Ælla's father was a king? It is possible that the records of King Hæme mentioned in Gesta Danorum have been lost over time. Regardless, Ælla ascended to the throne of Northumbria through violence, igniting a civil war against Osberth. In another account, Ælla ascended to the throne following the deposition of Osberth. His reign is traditionally dated to 862 to 863 AD. But historical evidence regarding Northumbrian royal chronology before 867 AD is unreliable. It is possible that Ælla's rule began as late as 866. Details about Ælla's reign are scant. Simeon of Durham records that Ælla appropriated lands at Billingham, Ilcliffe, Wycliffe, and Crease, which had previously belonged to the church. While most sources depict Ælla as a tyrant and an illegitimate ruler, one account suggests that he was the brother of Osberth. As per the Gesta Danorum, Ragnar Lothbrok, a legendary Viking hero and king of Sweden and Denmark, led a band of warriors on a raiding spree across England. During this campaign, Ragnar killed King Hæme in battle, an event Ælla would not forgive. Shortly thereafter, Ælla ascended to the throne of Northumbria. Meanwhile, Ragnar returned to Denmark, where he was joined by his son, Ivar the Boneless. The father and son then embarked on an expedition to the Northumbrian city of York, setting sail and soon arriving on the shores of England. In 867 AD, Ælla and the Osberth allied against a mutual adversary, Ivar the Boneless, and his Viking forces. At this point, historical accounts diverge. According to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, Ivar besieged York, leading to a massacre of Northumbrians, with both kings slain on the battlefield. The survivors made peace and submitted to the Viking army. This account suggests these events unfolded after Ragnar's death, with Ælla falling in the defense of York. In contrast, the Gesta Danorum recounts Ragnar and Ivar's arrival in York, where they battled Ælla for 3 days. The English suffered heavy losses while the Vikings emerged largely unscathed, forcing Ælla to retreat. Despite the defeat, Ælla remained determined to avenge his father's death at Ragnar's hands. Ragnar later summoned his sons to join him in an invasion of Ireland. Meanwhile, Ælla launched his assault on the Irish, targeting Ragnar's loyal allies in his relentless vendetta. Ragnar had not only killed Ælla's father, but had also ravaged his lands, fueling Ælla's desire for vengeance. Eventually, Ragnar attacked Ælla with his fleet of dragon-headed longships, igniting a naval battle. This time, Ælla triumphed, capturing Ragnar and casting him into a pit of snakes. Before dying, Ragnar defiantly recounted his exploits, ending with, "If the porkers knew the punishment of the boar, surely they would break into the sky and hasten to loosen him from his affliction." Ælla, understanding the message, ordered the vipers removed. But it was too late. Ragnar was dead. Ælla's blood feud had been fulfilled, but at what cost? Ivar learned of his father's death while watching the Viking games, showing no outward grief to avoid panic. Bjorn, another son, received the news while playing dice, squeezing the piece so hard that blood flowed from his fingers. Ivar concealed his sorrow, but why? Nevertheless, Ragnar's sons united with a common goal, avenging their father's death. The blood feud continued with Ælla now the target for killing their beloved father. Ivar sailed to England realizing his fleet was too weak for battle, so he devised a cunning plan. He requested land from Ælla as compensation for his father's death. Ælla agreed, seeing the request as reasonable, but this was part of Ivar's master plan. He fortified the land, building strong alliances with local leaders. Meanwhile, his brothers, Sigurd and Bjorn, arrived with a fleet of 400 ships, joined by Halfdan and Ubbe. Upon learning of his brother's arrival, Ivar met with Ælla under the pretense of negotiating peace. However, Ivar and his brothers secretly plotted a full-scale war, aiming to kill Ælla and avenge Ragnar. Leading a formidable force known as the Great Heathen Army, they faced Ælla's troops on the battlefield. As the battle began, many Northumbrian earls defected to Ivar's side, leaving Ælla outnumbered. The ensuing slaughter left Ælla's forces devastated, and he was captured. Recalling their father's torture and death, Ragnar's sons exacted their revenge through the Blood Eagle. They carved an eagle into Ælla's back, severing his ribs and pulling out his lungs. The Gesta Danorum describes, "And when they captured him, they ordered the figure of an eagle to be cut into his back, rejoicing to crush their most ruthless foe by marking him with the cruelest of birds. Not satisfied with imprinting a wound on him, they salted the mangled flesh." King Ælla was not the last to suffer the Blood Eagle's brutal execution, marking a chilling chapter in history. The Heimskringla saga recounts a gruesome tale involving Halfdan Longleg, son of Harald Fairhair, the Norwegian king. In a shocking betrayal, Halfdan killed his father's close ally, Ragnvald Eystenson, along with 60 of his men by burning them alive inside a Viking long hall. Ragnvald had been instrumental in assisting Harald with the unification of Norway, and his death left Harald in a furious rage. Seeking revenge, Ragnvald's son Torf Einar captured Halfdan and performed the Blood Eagle ritual on him. The Gesta Danorum describes how Ivar and his brothers carried out this ritual on King Ælla, making it a deeply personal execution and underscoring its symbolic meaning. The Vikings believed that Odin, the king of the gods, could transform into an eagle, suggesting that the Blood Eagle might have been connected to their religious rites. For a Viking, what better way to avenge a loved one than by offering an enemy's life to please Odin through this ritual sacrifice? The story of Ragnar's death is a tragic one, marked by a series of events leading to his downfall. It began with Ragnar's killing of King Hame, King Ælla's father, sparking a blood feud. Ælla retaliated by killing Ragnar in his way by casting him into a pit of snakes. Thus the cycle of revenge continued. Ragnar's sons avenged their father's death by executing King Ælla with the Blood Eagle, completing the revenge. Unknown to Ragnar, his death would set in motion the creation of the Great Heathen Army, a formidable force comprised primarily of Danish, Norwegian, and Frisian Vikings. This army would go on to conquer more than half of England. The Blood Eagle, a punishment reserved for the most despised enemies, symbolized deep personal vengeance, and may have also served as an offering to Odin. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share it with others who might benefit from this story.